Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Giribhara Dhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Giribhara Dhari Jashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Giribhara Dhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Giribhara Dhari Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, entitled The Summon Bonon, Chapter 6, entitled The Killing of the Demon Putana, text number 4 and also 5 and 6. We read 4 together and then read the other 2. Sakecharye Kadopatya Putana Nandagokulam Joshitva Maya Maya Joshitva Maya Jatmanam Pravishat Kamacharini Sakecharye Kadotpatya Putana Nandagokulam Joshitva Maya Jatmanam Pravishat Kamacharini Sakecharye Kadotpatya Putana Nandagokulam Joshitva Maya Jatmanam Pravishat Kamacharini. Please chant. That Putana Kechari who travel in outer space. Ekada, once upon a time, Utpatya was flying. Putana, the demon Putana, Nandagokulam, at the place of Nanda Maharaj, Gokula, Yoshitwa, converting into a very beautiful woman, Mayaya, by mystic powers, Atmanam, herself, Pravishat, enter, Kamacharini, one who could move according to her own desire. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Once upon a time, Putana Rakshashi, who could move according to her desire and was wandering in outer space, converted herself by mystic power into a very beautiful woman, and thus entered Gokula, the abode of Nanda Maharaj. Purport. Rakshashis learn mystic powers by which they can travel in outer space without machines. In some parts of India there are still such mystical witches who can sit on a stick and use it to fly from one place to another in a very short time. This art was known to Putana. Assuming the feature of a very beautiful woman, she entered Nanda Maharaj abode, Gokula. Text 5 and 6. Tam Keshabandam Vyashakta Malikam Brihannitam Bastanakichara Madhyamam Shwasankalpita Karnabhushanam Trisholashat Kuntalamanditananam Balgusmita Pangabhishargabhishiktair Manoharam Timbanitam Brajau Kusham Kasham Amanshatam Bhojakarena Rupinim Gopyasrijandrashtung Ivagatam Patim. Translation. Her hips were full, her breasts were large and firm, seeming to overburden her slim waist, and she was dressed very nicely. Her hair, adorned with a garland of malika flowers, was scattered about her beautiful face. Her earrings were brilliant, and she smiled very attractively, glancing upon everyone. Her beauty drew the attention of all the inhabitants of Braja, especially the men. When the gopis saw her, they thought that the beautiful goddess of fortune, holding a lotus flower in her hand, had come to see her husband Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnanjana Shalakaja Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So, the description of Putana has been provided here by Srila Sukadev Goswami. Few things we can understand of this powerful witch is that she had mystic powers. Starting with this term Kechari. Kechari, the witches that were able to fly, and in general they will fly in a stick, piece of wood. And Prabhupada explains that they were able to fly actually pretty fast. And the term that it was used in India to describe this type of witches is Kechara. Kechara, right? Kechara. And quite remarkable because we see that it's a witchcraft that is not just representative of, the Vedic times, but was, it's something that we also known in the West as the descriptions of witches, is mystical, evil personalities will have this type of powers. So the picture of the witches flying in a broomstick is very common in our, Western culture. And then you have the modern sort of characters that comes out of, like this character. What is the character of the stories, the children's stories? The little boy with the glasses. Harry Potter. He's supposed to be, they were supposed to be taught all these different mystic powers. So in this school of witches. That was the whole, story of the whole thing, and it became very popular. But the whole thing is that these evil entities were also able to achieve mystic powers. In general, we equate the acquire of mystic powers with the yogis, with transcendentalists. The yogis, just by austerities and certain practices, they were able to obtain these different siddhis, they call siddhis, or mystic powers, yogic powers that were able to defy normal laws of nature. And among many siddhis, there's 8 that are the principal 8 siddhis that are obtained by yogis, and they are described as anima siddhi, which is reducing one's body even to the size of an atom. So with anima siddhi, you become the smallest and the smallest, and then you're able to, do different things, escape certain situations, like that. Mahima siddhi, one spans one body to an infinitely large side. Garima siddhi, become infinitely, how do you say infinitely heavy, very heavy. Lagima siddhi, becoming almost weightless. So someone with Lagima siddhi can walk on water or can float in air, just like a how you say, like feather. Prapti siddhi, the ability to be anywhere at will. You can transport yourself to any place. Prakamya siddhi, realizing whatever one's desire. So personalities with this siddhi can manifest things. I want a mango from Maharaj. Radhan Maharaj was saying that the mangoes of this area of Bombay, I consider the base. So I want a mango, I want to try those mangoes. So boom, I can manifest that mango. Ishtva siddhi, supremacy over nature. And Bhatswa siddhi is control of natural forces. So you can actually, like create a hurricane or an earthquake and type of thing. And Kama Abhasajitva siddhi, complete satisfaction. So the yogis are able to achieve all these different types of siddhis, perfections, by the practices of mystic yoga, by controlling, by austerities, by the controlling of the airs. So all these type of, in one sense, Prabhupada explains mechanical processes. They're physical processes, and you're able to obtain these powers. But we see that these mechanical ways of obtaining these mystic powers are not only available for transcendentalists, but it's also available for demons. So, thus, we see that in the Vedic histories, the great demons, they also have all these mystic powers. So we see in the case of someone like Ravana, he was able to transform himself also. He was able to trick Sita Devi by transforming himself into a sannyas. So the beard, the matted locks, and like that. And he also was able to expand himself to a gigantic form, and so many of these. So in this case, we see Putana was also a master of these cities, and specifically the one that is highlighted is how she transformed herself from being this terribly horrible, fierce demon in appearance to transform himself into such a beautiful woman that it mesmerized the inhabitants of Vrindavan by her beauty. So, I mean, you can imagine, because the descriptions of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, their beauty is glorified. So for Putana to be able to entice by her beauty the inhabitants of Vrindavan, both the man and the woman, the children, everybody, is quite something. So you can see how powerful and how expert she was. They consider that, the goddess of fortune has come in terms of the dazzling beauty. And the description of her looking different, and smiling. So, she got it under control. So much that she was able to, with no obstacle, to go right straight to Krishna. To the fact that Mother Yasoda handed her Krishna with all confidence, because how can someone so beautiful be dangerous or have some evil intention? Not possible. And we're going to find out that although all these demons that are going to be sent by Kamsa, although they have perfected some mystic powers, their mystic powers are explained that this is just a fraction of the mystic powers of Krishna. All these mystic powers, they emanate from Krishna. And you may able to perfect it or to achieve certain degree of a particular power that Krishna has, but never close to Krishna. Therefore, Krishna, one of the names of Krishna that he's addressed is Yogeshwar, which is the sword or the master of all mystic powers. And when they go face to face with Krishna with their mystic powers, Krishna completely destroyed them, and we're going to see that. One of the wonderful teachings of our acharyas come from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, describing Putana, just taking the character of Putana and then bring them also into the type of demons, or making a comparison of Putana and her character in the pastimes of Krishna, a comparison with the demons that we have to face in the process of becoming Krishna consciousness as individuals. So each of these demons, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur draws a comparison with some of the obstacles that we face. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur compares Putana witch as the false guru, being the first obstacle that, or major obstacle that we have to confront, and the first major demon that Krishna kills, that is described in the pastimes. And he also mentioned that because of the displays of this maya, of this illusion that is created by this demon, is very dangerous. It's like when you have a very sharp source covered by a white, beautiful silk cloth. So although it appears that is harmless, beneath that cover there is a very dangerous weapon that can destroy you. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur compares Putana to the false guru, or the false teacher. Putana's purpose was to kill Krishna, and she disguised herself so expertly that everybody was fooled and trusted Krishna to her. And when she took Krishna on her lap, was for the purpose of destroying Krishna. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur draws this comparison that the false guru also disguised himself as a great saint and someone who can actually guide you in the path of Krishna consciousness. For those who are, it is explained that for the living entities, the conditioned souls, that when they have the great fortune to develop some attraction for Krishna, and that attraction start to appears in the heart, it's almost like the birth. Krishna appears in the heart of the devotee. But it's the appearance of Krishna consciousness in the beginning of a conditioned soul is vulnerable, like a baby. It's like, just as a baby appears very vulnerable, in the beginning our Krishna consciousness is very vulnerable. And then when we trust that Krishna consciousness to someone that appears to be saintly, and sometimes appears to be a great devotee, then we trust that, we trust our infant devotion to Krishna to such a false guru that in appearance is all very, very fantastic. Then it's a great danger, because the purpose of this false guru is to kill that Krishna consciousness in our heart. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that just as Putana had her milk breast milk covered with poison or infested with poison. The false guru's poison is his speculations and his disconnect from the disciplic succession and the teachings, the transcendental teachings of the disciplic succession. So it's just his personal speculations. And that's poison. Because when one's Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that milk is very nourishing, especially the mother's milk for the infant is actually compulsory in terms of nourishing the baby. But when it's mixed with poison, it will kill the baby. So similarly, the messages of the Absolute are nourishing to the soul, especially when one is starting to realize one's relationship with Krishna. So the messages from the scriptures, from the Vedas, are nourishing. But when those messages are touched, Prabhupada explains that in his when these messages, this sound vibration, these mantras are touched by someone who has these misconceptions of impersonalism or simply a speculation, then it's like milk touched by the lips of a serpent, causes a poisonous effect. So the milk becomes poison. It's not nourishing anymore, but it actually will kill that. So, but when Krishna is actually delivered, when we receive Krishna from a devotee, from a bona fide devotee, then that appearance of Krishna, that bona fide appearance of Krishna, will actually kill the false demon, the false guru. So in general, if we are connected with a bona fide spiritual master with proper faith, if we become fortunate to have that connection with a bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession, especially in our case, we're fortunate to be connected to a disciplic succession that was brought by Srila Prabhupada. And so when there is faith on that and we receive Krishna through that via media, then Krishna will kill the false gurus that may come here and there. We just have to remain faithful. And with the help of transcendental knowledge that is received from this via media of the disciplic succession, then we can become equipped to recognize the false gurus. There are different levels of false gurus, some that are very gross. In India, it's a big thing because there's a huge, India by nature is a very pious country, so people are naturally pious, and therefore it's a big thing of being, a guru there, and they exploit their piety of the people. So there's almost every year there's some scandal with some guru, so-called guru, pseudo-gurus, and they create huge chaos there. Their fall down mostly are sexual. They actually exploit their followers because at the end they accumulate so much influence and power and wealth that at the end you can see that they're demons in disguise. They're actually demoniac people. Some of the stories at the Riyadh are pretty shocking in terms of the type of activities that they do. So these are very gross demons in disguise. And then you have others that are more subtle. So we have to be very careful to cultivate and to protect the creeper of devotion that is given to us by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasada Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. This Bhakti Lata we have to protect. And how we protect? By understanding the teachings of our founder Acharya. That's specifically to ourselves, the followers of Srila Prabhupada. So by understanding the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, by studying it very carefully, that's going to always protect us in situations that are more subtle. Because for us, followers of Srila Prabhupada, then at times we have to deal with situations in which devotees fall down, and it's not the same to compare those devotees necessarily to gross demons. You have to be very careful on that. Sometimes maybe it's very confusing, but one thing, regardless of what the character of these fallen gurus is, one thing is for sure, that if we have the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's teaching, will be protected. And every single devotee that is on Prabhupada's movement, those who are serving Srila Prabhupada by guiding and by taking up the position of being the next on the disciplic succession, the spiritual masters, disciples of Srila Prabhupada, their purpose is to help us also take and understand, go in the path of understanding very well the teachings of the founder Acharya, so we can also be fully protected. So in this regard, one of the things that we understanding at this point in our Krishna conscious movement is the preeminent position of Srila Prabhupada as the main instructing gurus in our line. And his preeminence is, including so many of the great acharyas that are there. He represents that. It's almost like the summum bonum for us of the teachings of all the acharyas. Prabhupada has provided that for us. And so that's a means of protection. But anyway, it's a very complicated and deep subject matter, touchy too, and we have to go through very carefully. I don't feel at times necessarily very comfortable speaking about it because I did go through the times that it was so many of these fall downs there. In one sense, I feel myself fortunate that during that very difficult time, I was very expertly protected by my spiritual master. So I went through that with no much scars or doubts, because I just was very nicely engaged and shielded from that all negativity that was at that time. But I did see so many of contemporaries and friends, good friends, that were very scarred, you know. And their Krishna consciousness got terribly hurt. Many of them left Krishna consciousness for good. Very nice devotees, you know. And that was very unfortunate. And that's the result of, wow, that's loud. Very loud, louder than ever. I speak close to the microphone. That's better. So many of these very nice devotees, and some of them, you know, left for good. That we can see is the very, very graphic result of what someone who falls or is what a position, how to put it together that is, you know, properly. One of the things that we came to understand of the cause of the falling down of many of these wonderful devotees, because they actually were wonderful devotees at that time, many of them, it was that when they took in an artificial way the position of Srila Prabhupada. And because of having that position and playing that position that was not their position, then it created this sort of putana arrangement that many devotees, their devotion was killed. So now we're learning better. After passing through all those growing pains, we know that the solution or the protective position is to understand very, very, that's on each one of us, that we have to come to understand Prabhupada's teaching very clearly. So we have to study Prabhupada's teaching. We have to absorb it. I finish with this, that one of the most wonderful, or at least realizations that I heard from a devotee who have gone through all of this, I heard from this, from Devaki Mataji. She was here during June, giving a series of talks. And she was initiated first by, I think, Jayatirtha, and then reinitiated by Bhagavan, and then reinitiated by someone else, Prabhu Vishnu Swami, or something like that. 3 times her guru fell down. And then finally she took the shelter of Niranjana Maharaj. And then she feels very secure now under Niranjana Maharaj. And she said this, that each one of those gurus were perfect for her to help her in her Krishna consciousness at the time. Because at the time that they were following, they were teaching, they were giving her Krishna. But because she was taking the transcendental knowledge and she was well equipped, she was able to move through and being able to appreciate what she was receiving. The connection with Srila Prabhupada, the experiences of serving Srila Prabhupada, and the experiences of these devotees who were, during Prabhupada's time, dedicated to the service of Srila Prabhupada. Like really dedicated, personalities like Bhavananda and Rameshwar. You hear during the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada how much wonderful service they did. Rameshwar was at the head of the BBT, and that was the famous pastimes of the 17 volumes in 2 months. He was at the head of that. He was Sankirtan leader. Anyway, Prabhupada was very fond of Rameshwar. Bhavananda was a leader for Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur and Australia and all this, and he was able to develop very strongly things there. So she said that what she received from these devotees, she appreciated as very valuable. When they stopped following Srila Prabhupada's teachings and falling down, that part is the cause of the falling down, but it's not the cause of her fall, because what she received is what she took. So she went, so the next one and the next one she also received. So she says that she remains grateful, which is quite something, because many devotees that I know, they still have some bitterness towards, feeling cheated, rather. And that becomes like poison. It's still the poison that is in the Krishna in the Krishna conscious. That poison that was introduced there remains as a big obstacle. So it's quite remarkable, her approach. And I think it's the proper approach to do. One have to see with gratitude what was receiving. Yeah. I stop here. Any comments or questions? A little difficult subject matter, but no. Yes.
Just an appreciation of, gross and going to more subtle false gurus that we come across in society. Because there's the orange robed and like the more obvious ones that are, obviously they're a false guru and stuff. But then, you know, it gets harder and harder as it becomes more subtle and subtle to realize, like, all these sound vibrations that we're hearing could be leading us astray from bhakti, you know, like, through, like, the modern, you know, different paths of yoga that are out there nowadays. And there's all these people that might not be dressed up in, you know, saffron robes and stuff, but they're saying things that sound nice to hear, but subtly they're trying to, like, you know, take away the individuality and personhood of Krishna and stuff.
Just repeat the last part.
Sorry. What they might be saying might be, like, kind of pleasing to the ear. Like, you know, when you're scrolling through, like, Facebook and Instagram, you see all these, like, little clips of all these different inspirational teachers and stuff saying all these, you know, really nice words, but it's hard to differentiate, you know, if what they're saying is, you know, personalism or impersonalism. But
Right,
yeah,
right.
just something that came to mind. Yeah.
And what to speak of other things, you know, two things that I remember sort of reading on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, that the false guru teach you bhukti and mukti, bhukti and mukti, or sort of like encourages the, you know, the development of this desire for bhukti and mukti. Bhukti means sense gratification, and mukti means liberation, impersonal liberation. The real guru teaches you bhakti. But so if your devotion to Krishna is towards Krishna is being sort of enhanced and help to growth, then you have a proper guru. But when, you know, the tendency goes towards impersonalism or towards sense gratification, then that's what gets agitated. So, so that's one thing that he mentioned. So, you know, you have all these different so-called transcendentalists and gurus of all kind that are teaching you, you know, how to be better enjoyer, how to have a healthier approach to enjoyment. So you have a higher sort of capacity to enjoy, you know, and in the guise of spirituality, and we can the only reason we can actually fall prey of those false teachings is that we are lacking on transcendental knowledge. So with transcendental knowledge, we have a much more objective understanding. That's one thing. The other is purity. So for us, two things are very, very important. You know, our sadhana practices and our serious studies of Prabhupada's books, like both hand to hand. Without sadhana, we don't have the mental strength to actually take up the process of growing in Krishna consciousness. So if your sadhana is defective or deficient, then you'll be very vulnerable. But when your sadhana is strong, then your mental strength to actually do, you know, the disciplines, then is good. So that's what we're depending. That's why if we serious on that, if we actually talking serious, not that, you know, is from a criticizing perspective, but actually it's a personal sort of like desire. You know, I have to do this. There's no other alternative. You know, it's like the Upanishad says, you know, there's no alternative. Just that. Just take the process. So if we come to that realization that, you know, we have to do it. You know, you try. You have something else? Rasa Mataji, you want to say anything?
Thank you for all your realizations, and I was really appreciating your last statement and Devaki Mataji's approach. Having grown up in the movement, I experienced a lot, and I think her realizations really speak to me in that, I've seen a lot of people fixated on the person, the guru as a person. I've heard a lot of, especially in the younger, or in the 80s, where there's a lot of sort of fanaticism a little bit, and it was always about the person, the guru as a person. Oh, did you see them? They're so wonderful. They spoke so wonderfully. Sort of being in love with the person rather than, and I think personally, my realization back then was that, like my parents were in love with Srila Prabhupada as a person, in that they felt an instant connection with him. Even though they didn't know the philosophy, they told me that the first thing they felt was the person, this is a special person, we love him as a person. They instantly were connected to him, and it was the deepest connection they had ever felt, and that stayed with them. So I think a lot of people in the early 80s were looking for that same sort of connection, and so they went about that approach of trying to connect with gurus in that sense, rather than connecting with the philosophy first, and the scripture, and Srila Prabhupada's writings and his direction, and then taking instruction, physical instruction from the person. At least that was my perspective. So I think it's a confusing topic for me, because I'm still not initiated and I'm still looking for that. And part of me wants that connection where you feel inspired every day by that person as a living example, and living the teaching and embodying the purity that you want to achieve, and feeling that soul to soul connection as a guidance. But then also, to your point, being really actually having the foundation of Srila Prabhupada and his teachings, and everything that he's left behind, all the resources. Because I think about it, like my parents were saying, in the early days, they barely had books. They had Back to Godhead magazines here and there, but they didn't even have Srimad Bhagavatam. They had 1 or 2 or 3 books to study. So and there's no recordings. There was nothing. And today we have unlimited resources on the internet. All the books, everything's complete. So maybe I'm rambling, but I have had this conversation with my parents many times where, I want to have that connection. I don't want to just, get initiated. And my father says, well, you should get initiated just from the standpoint of committing to 16 rounds a day. And having that commitment is going to make you fixed and disciplined, because right now, without being initiated, it's easy not to be disciplined. So he's like, well, you should be disciplined about it, so just get initiated for that purpose. But then on the other hand I'm still hanging on to perhaps having that connection.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's an internal battle, it's a dilemma. But I guess, fundamentally, I couldn't agree with you more. It all starts with the philosophy and Srila Prabhupada and his legacy, and any person being a representative of that, the connection still has to be right, I guess.
Yeah. I like very much, thank you so much for sharing that. I like very much something that Sureshwar Prabhu said. He was bringing us an example of a Mataji who connected with Srila Prabhupada. through reading Prabhupada's books, and in the 80s. So she was very discouraged when that whole thing happens, that Sonalacharya collapse happened. And she was very afraid. So she decided, Prabhupada is my guru. So I just study Srila Prabhupada and keep the connection with Srila Prabhupada. And I think she got married to a Prabhupada disciple, and eventually, once, I can't remember who has a conversation with her. I think it was Giriraj Swami, who told her that, what about if you connect to someone who will simply enhance your relationship with Srila Prabhupada? Remember, you were there. I weren't there, but so that it won't take you away from Srila Prabhupada, because no doubt about it, the relationship with the spiritual master, you have to have that personal connection. It's actually a very intimate personal connection with the spiritual master. So is that relationship, her fear was that relationship is going to supersede my relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And she was not sure about that. But when Giriraj Maharaj, I think was Giriraj Maharaj said that, what about if you establish a relationship with that person, the spiritual master, who will simply enhance and make your relationship with Srila Prabhupada grow and grow and grow deeper and deeper? How would you feel about it? And she say, oh, she didn't think about that. So she was able to, from that perspective, take initiation. And so right now, after so much growing pains, I think we're learning that both things have to be there. We have to have a personal relationship with our spiritual master, person. But that relationship is to bring us closer, to go deeper and deeper in our relationship with our founder Acharya. So we all Prabhupanugas. So we all have this very strong personal connection to Srila Prabhupada. So if that's basically what our spiritual masters are helping us, because we simply follow Srila Prabhupada's program, Prabhupada's teaching. So we all follow Prabhupada's teaching. So we're learning from our Guru Maharaj to actually learn much more deeper and deeper how to be connected to Srila Prabhupada. And that's what we're looking for. That's a much more mature understanding. That's what I understood from this presentation. I think was very powerful too. And it makes you feel, I'm now more clear and encouraged, of what is this movement about. And this movement is about serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada being the preeminent Acharya in the age of Kali. If we analyze the scriptural things and his activities, So from that perspective, I think we're very safe if we approach it like that.
I've noticed a difference in the last 20 years has been that instead of trying to recreate all of the personal guru worship and revelation that is described in, you know, the scriptures that you would give your spiritual master instead of transferring that from Srila Prabhupada to the in-person guru, that they've actually kept it only with Srila Prabhupada in that sense. Like we only sing, you know, the Shri Guru Charana Padma prayers to Srila Prabhupada. Back in the day, we didn't. We used to sing it to the live guru who was there, and you know, touch their feet and offer flowers and wash their feet and all that. And it didn't feel right in a sense. So
did you say it did feel right? Or
it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I remember even being in Gurukul, and you know, Bhagavan or some guru would visit, and we would all, you know, it was like God walked into the room. We were so, you know, starstruck almost, and so it didn't feel right. Even when I was little, I felt like, you know, this is a little fanatic, or it's, you know, I don't understand what's going on. Why is this person so special? I didn't understand it really. But now that I'm more mature, I think I've never met Srila Prabhupada, but I fell in love with him, not to the same degree as my parents. Just from reading his books and just from hearing from his disciples how much, you know, how dedicated he was to, you know, Lord Krishna and his sacrifices really. And all the beauty of that, and how, you know, 40, 50 years later, it's like he never left for them. He's in their hearts, you know?
Right.
And it's kind of hard because you're looking for that kind of connection. But, you know, in my case, I don't know if I'll find that. But I'm trying to at least emulate their connection to him in that same way.
It's wonderful to actually go deeper. I'm sure, you know, Krishna will guide us all to go. It's part of what this movement is meant to be. We're just in the beginning of 10,000 years of, you know, something very amazing happening, which is Prabhupada's work. So it's no doubt we can be full of hope. So I finish with this. So thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sort of a nice prelude for the weekend next week, Srila Prabhupada's appearance. There you go.